Means tried to catch me to ask. The uploads on the JoshStrifeHayes have been pretty consistent with Twitch, but it's months gap in between the worst MMO and the Was It Good. Have I moved on from those series? No. I tried to find a community note on them, but couldn't. Looking for an update. Been a fan for 4 years. No, what I'm doing is I'm gathering the data on whether it's worth doing Twitch or worth doing YouTube. That's the ultimate answer to all of those. So the questions about videos on YouTube and Twitch. It is very difficult to be a full-time YouTube video maker and a full-time Twitch streamer. In fact, by definition, you can't really do two things at full time. You would be doing two things at half time. If I make full-time YouTube videos, which was what I was doing for a long time, then the content I was making has found a deal of success. But that meant that I was not doing Twitch streaming, which is something I enjoy and something I value. And so what I wanted to do was I wanted to see what working on Twitch full-time would be like. I wanted to see, hang on, you can do two things full-time if you work at weekends as well. Full-time is 40 hours a week. Right, username not taken. I'm not talking full-time as in the specific definition of it within the working regulations. I'm talking about the amount of time that I spend doing something. It is difficult for me to spend all of my time focusing on one project and all of my time focusing on another. If I spend all of my time focusing on one thing. Basically, if I spend half of my working time doing YouTube and half of my working time doing Twitch, I am not going to be able to put out enough YouTube videos to make YouTube happy, and I'm not going to be able to Twitch stream long enough in order to make Twitch streaming relevant. The only way that people are able to make Twitch streaming and YouTube a full-time thing is if they are making YouTube videos or clips of their Twitch streams. This is why you get people who do reaction videos, because they still want to be able to upload stuff to YouTube, but they don't want to have to be able to research, edit, write, script, render and upload to YouTube. They want to be able to sit, watch something, and then upload that to YouTube. If you want to do Twitch full-time, you need to just turn the Twitch videos into YouTube videos, which my YouTube audience don't want. So what I'm doing is a bit of an experiment. I am seeing what the reality is of just doing loads of Twitch streaming. Now, it might be a case of I get to the end of the 2 or 3 months or 4 months or however long I focus on it for and say, you know what, that wasn't worth it. The YouTube videos slowed down too much. I need to return to doing YouTube stuff. Or it'll be a case of going, you know what, that was so much fun. Am I saying that reacting to things is easier than making a thing? Yes. Yes, absolutely, substantially I am. So obviously the YouTube videos have slowed down because I've been focusing more on the Twitch. YouTube is a risk for scripted content because the amount of time and effort that you put into scripted content is much higher than just watching somebody else's scripted content and saying what you think about it. So I've stepped away from YouTube as an experiment. So what I need to ask is the Twitch streaming more valuable than the YouTube thing? And I'll tell you guys an interesting business decision based on that. YouTube is really good at being known for the content. Like if you make YouTube videos, you get known for the content that you make. When you do Twitch, you get known for you. Now that has an advantage and a disadvantage to it. The advantage to being known for you is that you become the product. And with you as a product, you become much more valuable. The problem with Twitch is that you always need to be there in order to effectively do the job. YouTube has a huge amount of passive income that gets generated once you have made those videos. So YouTube is good if you don't want to be in the public eye a lot or interacting with your audience. Twitch is great if you want to interact with the audience. So you have to ask yourself as a content creator, what do you want? Do you want to be known by the audience but not interact with them? Or do you want to interact with the audience but not necessarily create work that is going to be lasting? It sounds like you hate interacting with chat. No, I love interacting with chat. What I hate is not being able to give people the content that they want. And the content that people want is often much more thoroughly scripted content. What do I value more? That is a good question, Psycho. And that is what I am trying to find out. Do I value the consistency and the I would suppose, honestly, mental distance that YouTube provides? Or do I like the interaction and the personal touch that Twitch provides? The answer is I like both of them. I think both of them have a great deal of value, and both of them enhance what something can and can't be. But I can't do both of them full time. I can't Twitch stream 8 hours a day and work on YouTube videos for 8 hours a day. Because someone said to me, why don't you Twitch stream like 3 or 4 days a week and then make YouTube videos the other 3 or 4 days a week? That may not work, as in the Twitch stream may not be as successful enough, and it would slow down the YouTube videos. Plus, at that point, when do I get 1 day off to do anything that I want to do? Could you stream the games you play for the Wasn't Any Good series? I could, but that fundamentally changes the nature of how I play those games. I could stream the games that I play in order to review. The thing is, when I'm playing a game to review it, I am fully focused on analyzing the mechanics and the experience that I am having. And doing that means that I'm putting all of my focus and attention on the game. That's why you got editors, right? I have worked with a couple of editors before, but I edit the vast amount of my stuff. Streaming the games that I play for the Was It Any Good series would actually be... it would be detrimental to the stream. Because it would be you watching me in silence play a video game. It would also mean that as I am recording the footage for that game, I'm putting extra strain on my PC's CPU because I would need to both record it and stream it at the same time. And if it's a game that contains copyright music, or it's a game that contains stuff that YouTube is not going to allow or Twitch is not going to allow, I would then need to interact and stop that. Imagine that your job was to write a book. You would sit down somewhere quiet and write the book. Then imagine that you were sitting down to write the book while there were 1,000 people watching you write the book, all expecting you to entertain them at the same time. You're going to feel a slight amount of pressure while writing the book. You know you can write it well, but at some point you're going to be like, guys, this is going to get finished quicker if you're not sat there watching. It's difficult to analyze something and entertain simultaneously. That is why the games that I like playing, this is going to sound silly, the games that I really like playing on stream are games that I don't necessarily need to think too much about. Now, I don't know Albion as well as I know RuneScape or Warcraft or Neverwinter or any of the other MMORPGs, but I think I can just about engage with it on a level where I'm still playing the game, but I'm still reading the chat and talking to you guys. So to loop this back to the question of YouTube or Twitch, if I do Twitch enough to make a full-time living from it, I don't have enough time to make a substantial amount of YouTube videos. If I do YouTube enough to make a full-time living from it, I don't have a huge amount of time to also do Twitch streaming. And I have to ask myself, which of those would I rather do more of? Do I want to make enough YouTube videos that makes the algorithm happy and not have long enough to stream? Because if you do both of them to an even degree, you are going to fail at both of them instead of succeeding at one of them. What if you just upload Twitch streams as YouTube videos? YouTube hates that. People on YouTube don't want that. They want curated, actual, edited, scripted videos. People do not want... Also, Tappy, I already do. The JoshStrifeReplays channel is literally just re-uploads of unedited Twitch streams. They do not get millions of views, whereas the regular YouTube videos do. I think viewers forget how much extra bandwidth streaming takes. There is a huge amount of mental effort that I have to put into constantly talking and entertaining. And I'm not saying it's effort that I'm not happy to put in. I really am. I want. Right, but the gains channel hasn't seen any gains in years. Yeah, Tappy, what do you want me to do? Right, Tappy, I've got 7 days a week. Same 7 days that you've got, man. How much content do you want me to try and make? Do you want one video every week on the MMORPG channel? That means that I'm spending at least 20 to 30 hours playing a game. That's normally 2 to 3 days. Then I want to write a script of all the notes I've taken. That's 1 to 2 days. Then I need to record the audio of the script and edit it. That's another 2 to 3 days. Then I've got to, render it and upload it and sort all that out. Any kind of render problems, that's a whole day. Which means that I could put one video a week out on the MMO channel if I did literally nothing else. I could put one video a week out on the Was It Any Good channel if I did, this is very important, literally nothing else. And then you have to include the fact, Do I have to have 1 day off? I think 1 day off is fair. 1 day a week where I don't do any work. So that's 6 days. That's 6 days. Let's say that I work 10 to 12 hours a day. That's going to give you 60 hours of work. Okay, 60 hours of work a week. What do we do with it? If I'm Twitch streaming for, let's say, 5 hours a day for 6 days, that's 30 hours. That's already 30 hours gone. That's half your time, 5 hours a day, 6 days a week. From then on, we have to say, right, what's the other 30 hours being used for? Is the 30 hours being used to make an MMORPG video? If it's an MMORPG video, 30 hours is just the gameplay, which means in 1 week, all I would be able to do is establish the gameplay being played, nothing else. Then the next week I would write the script, the next week I would edit it. Effectively, what I need to try and get across is there is a limited amount of time in the week to create stuff. And people would like stuff created for everything. They would like the MMO videos to continue. They would like the Was It Any Good series to continue. And I would like them to continue as well. That'd be great. But I simply do not have as much time. Do I consider 30 hours enough to judge an MMORPG? I don't consider it enough to see all the content that it has, but to judge it, yes. When I say judge, I don't mean I'm going to give you my in-depth thoughts and opinions on the end game of this MMO. I'm going to mean, are the controls responsive? Can you change around the keybinds? Does it have a consistent art direction? Was it easy to download and log into? What is the history of the company that makes it? What is the quality of the sound? What is the experience a player has in the first 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 hours? All that jazz. If you cannot judge the quality of the construction of something within 30 hours, it has been constructed with bad pacing. It is important that you are able to judge something within that. We're now in 7th place, Scissoran's in 2nd. Yeah, that makes sense. People say, can you judge an MMO in 30 hours? You're asking two different questions. Can you see everything that an MMORPG has to offer in 30 hours? No, of course you can't. But can you judge it? Absolutely. Do you need to stay in every room of a hotel to judge the quality of the hotel? Do you need to eat every meal on the menu of a restaurant to judge the restaurant? Do you need to see every episode of a TV show to judge the general quality of the show? No, you don't. You can, if you know what you're looking for, you can look for signals and signifiers that show you a level of quality within that game or that thing. You can see whether the acting of a TV show is good. You can see if the costume design is decent. There is a huge amount of stuff that you can judge early on that will show you the level of quality that you are working with. And if you can't judge that early on, you have to ask yourself why. And this is another thing. If I play an MMORPG for 30 hours, I will see 30 hours worth of the game. People say that is not enough to judge the game on. It is enough to judge the construction of the experience and decide whether you want to continue. That's the question. You can finish Expedition 33 in 30 hours. A restaurant critic isn't eating every single dish, but one they know well and can give a rating on. Yeah, that's true. And they can also judge, if you walk into a restaurant, the food of course matters, but you're also judging the cleanliness of the restaurant overall. You're judging the frontage and the signage. You're judging its online presence. You're judging the marketing. You're judging the music that plays when it walks in. You're judging the cleanliness of the uniforms that people are wearing there. You're judging the other diners that you see or don't see. There's a load of small signifiers that if you know what to look for, you can see before the food gets there. Now, maybe the food gets there and the food is either great or terrible and it completely changes your opinion. But you can often see what something or someone values based on what they put effort and time into. I think you can judge a lot about a restaurant based on the cleanliness of the toilets, because that is the thing that the customers are not going to see until they have already invested and given you money. The customer is going to sit down, they're going to choose the food, they're going to order the food, they're going to give you the money. People want to get meals free for a lot of reasons. Very few people would say to the manager, I want you to comp this meal because the toilets were bad. People want meals comped for lots of reasons. That's not always one of them. It's not one of the big ones. So the toilets are something that a restaurant needs to provide, but aren't necessarily going to have a huge impact on someone's experience. So if you go to a restaurant and the toilets are spotless, you are seeing that this team care about putting effort into something that enhances your experience that isn't necessarily getting more money from you. In my early MMO videos, I gave each game 8 to 10 hours. Do I think that that's fair to judge it? Do I think it's fair to judge on whether I want to carry on playing? Absolutely. You don't need to play more than 10 hours of Isekai Demon Waifu to kind of get the vibe. I think MMORPG players have a bit of a strange relationship with time. Because if someone said to you, hey, I want you to watch this anime, it gets good 30 hours in, how many episodes are you going to watch before you say, hey, my free time is limited, I'm not going to keep playing this? I think the difference that we're seeing is people that make MMORPGs their entire lives don't see 30 hours as a long time. Whereas someone that has, you know, a full-time job and a family and a hobby outside of the game is going to see 30 hours as potentially their entire month's worth of free time. Most people don't get more than an hour free a day to do whatever they want to do when they're trying to take into account other stuff. Eating healthy, going to the gym, going for a walk outside, family obligations, travel, all that jazz. When you say, hey, it's 30 hours in, you're asking the average person to invest between 1 to 3 weeks of their free time. And that's a lot. So if it can't get good that many hours in, if it's not giving you an experience that you want to have more of, something else will. You can judge it based on what it gives you. I think MMORPG players hear me saying, I've played this game for 30 hours, here's my opinion, and what they hear is me saying, I haven't experienced everything that's in the game. And you know what? They are absolutely spot on. What I'm saying is, I have experienced what the game chooses to prioritize enough to present to a new player within a time frame that is far longer than the average player will give it. And if it has not given me something good within that time, one judgment I can make is the pacing is terrible. This is something I judge Final Fantasy XIV on, massively. Final Fantasy XIV's pacing is dire. It's a great game, terrible pacing. It feels like it's a damning conditions of daily life where you don't have that much free time. Sleeping Crows, that's just a lot of daily life normally. You also have to understand this. Sleeping Crows, maybe you've got a point. Maybe people have more than 1 hour a day free. Let's imagine that you have 3 hours a day free. That's a decent amount of time to have free. You've got a full-time job, you've got a family, you've got 3 hours a day free. Maybe you're entirely free on Saturdays and Sundays. You're not going to spend all that time doing one thing. You're going to have different hobbies. People can play an MMORPG and go and be parts of a sports team, and collect models, and read books, and do painting, and do sports. There is so much more than just the game. So when I say I've played for 30 hours and people think, I could do that in 3 days. Yeah, you probably could if you're not doing anything else. But a lot of people don't make a game their whole thing. There is variety to it as well. And that's what scares me about MMORPG players. I believe they forget the variety. Even if you do, if the thing isn't fun, you're not going to carry on, are you? Absolutely. We have a huge amount of other games that we can get into and play. It does sometimes worry me that when I say, hey, I've put 30 hours into this, here is my opinion on this based on cross-referencing it with my experience of other things similar to it over many years. Hardcore players of that game go, basically irrelevant. You can't even talk about it. It's not even useful, you know? I think that you should absolutely treat MMORPG games like any other video game. Do you want to keep playing it? Yes, the good stuff's at the end, but do you want to keep playing it? Has it given me enough to keep going? When you say, Hypharis, that's a good point. You say that you don't need hundreds of hours to work out whether you don't like a TV show, but you might need hundreds of hours to work out whether you like an MMORPG. If an MMORPG gets good 100 hours in, and it gets good by changing its gameplay, you have to ask yourself, why didn't it change the gameplay earlier? If a game is good when it changes, why did it not change earlier? Why even have the first 100 hours? Normal people, normal, well-adjusted people with variety in their life are not playing a subpar experience for 100 or more hours to get to the good bit, when there are experiences out there paced to be good now. Now, when I try and explain this, and this is so difficult to talk to MMORPG players, when I say it should get good earlier, what people think I'm saying is you should have access to the ultra difficult endgame raids immediately. That's not true. What you should have access to early on is meaningful choices. They don't need to be the most complicated. They don't need to be the most powerful. They do need to be meaningful. If you can give the player access to a meaningful choice and explain why that choice is meaningful, have that player understand, then you're going to have someone who says, hey, the first hour of this is good. Keyword is meaningful choice. People say to me, oh, just wait till the raids at the end. Oh, yeah, they're so good. Okay, why isn't the dungeon in the first 20 minutes good? Why am I not being given meaningful choices? Oh, your build isn't online. Well, why not? Why can't you give me a build that allows me to make meaningful choices in a way that doesn't overwhelm me or overpower me? An MMORPG player should be able to download the game, start playing the game, and engage with and interact with the game in a way that makes them feel that the most important part is their choice. If their choice isn't the most important part, what are they doing? That's what I try and explain to people. Do I find the build-up when starting is better than peaking and becoming powerful in lots of games? Yeah, I do actually. You know what? I think that World of Warcraft is pretty fun from the start. You get to make meaningful choices. I think people confuse complexity with meaningful choice. It doesn't need to be complex. It does need to have an impact on the way that you play the game. If you need to teach the player how to do something, that's fine. But episode 1 of a TV show should still have something happen. Good first episode of TV shows still have things happen. There is progress made constantly. It needs to hook you in. And when people hear, oh, you can't judge this MMO because it's much more complicated, that's true. But I'm not judging the complexity of the endgame. I'm judging the desire to get there. An important factor when playing games was getting powerful progressively, not being powerful from the start. Of course, what's happening? You're doing a solo dungeon? Yes. Critiquing MMORPG games does mean engaging with the MMORPG player base, and that means that you're engaging with, as much as you might not want to admit it, an emotional player base. When you critique someone's game that they have made their personality, in their mind you're critiquing their personality. And if you say that this game is lackluster, what they hear is your personality is wrong. Introducing complexity as you go is a great way of doing it. Complexity is good. Depth is good. Working out how these things combine together is great. It's that aha moment that you really want the players to have. And I think developers know this. Developers and designers know this. I've had companies, big companies, come and discuss design with me because I've spent so long analyzing it. They've looked at it and gone, you know what, he's probably got a bit of a point. Isn't that what FF14 does, though? Being a bit too slow during its first story chapters? Yeah, absolutely. The pacing in Final Fantasy XIV is terrible. Now, I believe that there is absolutely a good game behind that when you get to it. But one of my biggest critiques of Final Fantasy XIV is you have to sit through a slog of an early game to get to a good bit, which I think is a real shame. And people ask me, is Final Fantasy XIV a good game? And the answer is it gets there. But here's the question. Here's the question. If you were to play Final Fantasy XIV for the first 20 to 30 hours, you would not see the best part of the game. But you would be able to make a judgment based on the quality of the construction you've seen. You would be able to judge the quality of the world. You would be able to judge the sound. You'll be able to judge the music. You could judge some of the boss fights. You could judge the basic story. You could judge the complexity of the characters and the complexity of the classes. You could judge the game based on its construction. And its construction is very good. Even if you don't get to where it truly shines, you could understand that it's made well. That's what I try and explain to people that I'm often judging. You love the art direction and music in 14? Yeah, great choice. Absolutely great choice. Good art directions in general, all around. That's what makes judging MMORPGs a tad more difficult than judging other games. You are trying to explain to a very emotionally invested player base that you are judging their game on its mechanical construction, not on its emotional relevance to them or their life or their history or their past. Because that's what they want you to do. People want you to validate the time they've spent playing the game they've played. If you guys are looking away from the screen now, please look back, because this game has jiggle physics, and I'm not even kidding. Every time one of these witches casts a spell, and they are wearing a very low-cut top. Welcome back, everyone who's just joined us. I'm not lying to you. This is not clickbait. Here you go. I'll stand over here. There you go. You got some jiggle physics going on Right there. You're all welcome. This is unfortunately a dungeon. They even bounced when she died. This is a dungeon where you have to kill hot goth baddies, which I think is a real shame. What is this attention to detail called? I think it's called game design. If you can judge a game based on emotions, then becoming a people pleaser, get their approval, make them feel validated. Yeah, that's true. I would feel that you can judge a game based on its construction, and I can say to someone, hey, this is badly designed, but that doesn't mean that you don't love it. There are many badly designed things that I like. Am I doing so because of a statement on Albion so far? No. People were saying, can you really judge an MMORPG playing it for only 30 hours? And I think the answer is yes. Interested in Albion, heard it was a bit pay for progression. How strong is that? Extremely. You can absolutely pay to progress in this game. No doubt about it whatsoever. It's not even close. Why has everyone got the hots for goth girls? I think because everyone has really good taste. Are there people without the hots for goth girls? Of course. Different strokes for different folks. You find sexy what you find sexy. We don't kink shame here. Unless your kink is being shamed, in which case you're filthy and wrong. You should feel disgusted at what you do. There you go. It's all part of the service. Right, let's get back to talking about MMORPG design. MMORPG design appeals to people who want to spend hundreds of hours in one game online and make that game their thing. Which means when you come across, or when I come across, as effectively a tourist and critique that thing, why should they listen to me? They shouldn't. And then they wonder why they have no new players. Because I'm trying to explain the new player experience to them. Before we pick back, thank you for taking the time to explain your logic on the YouTube updates. Oh, you're welcome. So, effectively, it's a business decision. And if I get to the end of my business month and I look at Twitch and I say, wow, that has made nowhere near as much as YouTube would have done, or I get to the end and go, wow, that was so much more successful than YouTube, holy crap, I'm then going to know what the best choice is going to be in the future. But I need the data. I also need to know which day is the right day to stream on. Hang on, sad case. He's saying the market gameplay has depth and I'm claiming it's the same quite early in the game. Yeah. Something that you find deep might not be something someone else finds deep. Only the day matters, not months. The data you can gather changes day by day, and you can see that there are a couple of days in the week that simply have greater or lesser views. Wednesday and Thursday are normally quite low as far as viewer count goes for pretty much any Twitch stream. Wednesday and Thursday are lower. Saturday and Sunday are much higher, but interesting fact, Saturday and Sunday are much higher viewed days, but they're not actually the days where you get the most subscriptions. The most subscriptions, this is weird, I mean, it makes total sense when you think about it, but I didn't correlate it. The most subscriptions come on the Monday after payday. If people get paid monthly, the Monday after payday, that's when people sub to Twitch streams. That's when people gift subs. And it makes total sense when you think about it. That's just when people have got money. But I didn't realize that until I was looking at one Monday a month. And I'm like, this one Monday every month just sees a huge spike in subscriptions and cheers. Why is that? Oh, yeah, it's payday, obviously. That makes so much more sense to me. Is that not just auto-renew kicking in? It could also be that as well. But normally it's not just from the subscriptions, it's from the bits as well. So people also cheer on that day. So what you end up with is a huge amount of data that helps drive your decisions. Data is important to help drive business decisions. You can make business decisions off vibes. That's fine if you want to do that. But having data to help you kind of direct those choices, that matters a lot. Josh, return to WoW, Return of the King after this completion of Albion. Hang on, the DVD logo's still there. There we go. Dude, I'm playing Albion right now. Let's focus on this. Keep going, guys. Remember, we can track guild progress on the website. Do your best. Josh, if we gift at least 2 subs, do we qualify for the mount skin in the Crucible? Grenade, that's a good question. My answer is I don't know. Maybe. What game am I currently playing for the Was It Any Good series? The game that I have finished that will be the next video is Icewind Dale. That will be the next one on the series. What's that? Icewind Dale is one of the Infinity Engine games similar to Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. It's effectively the same kind of game as Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, except it's much more focused on combat and much less focused on story. Icewind Dale has no companions that you can choose from. It has no narrative that matters for the main character. It is effectively just a 25-hour combat challenge that goes all the way through. You're not sure why, but I remind you of Robb Stark from Game of Thrones, because I look a little bit like Richard Madden. That's exactly why. We have that same casting type. Can you play Albion Online without any PvP? Yes. You just can't go into the red zones or the black zones. Because the red zones and the black zones are where you do PvP. So just don't go there and you'll be fine. I mean, you might find it difficult to be able to play the game without going into the red or the black zones, but you can. You can do economy only, that's true. What do we miss when not going to red and black zones? Higher level resources and higher level dungeons. That's pretty much it. You can, however, still use low level economy to make a lot of money, because a lot of people, even in the red and black zones, don't actually buy end game gear. They buy tier 4 or tier 5 gear. Do I still personally find ways of playing the economy, or does it boil down to the same 10 good ways? I mean, there's always going to be a meta of anything. There's always going to be a way of, the most efficient, most effective use of time. Arkin, meta does not stand for most effective time available or most efficient time allocation. That is what we call a backronym. It can stand for it now, but I don't think it stood for it originally. That's when people take a word and find a way to effectively make the letters in the word mean something, because the word itself is pretty cool. Like, people do say meta means most efficient time available. I don't think it originally meant that, but it just kind of does.
Josh, in your opinion, what does the MMO genre need to come back to life?
It needs people who aren't having fun playing it to stop saying what it needs to come back to life and let people do it. That's almost like saying, hey, you're involved in this really, really, really niche sport. What does it need to become world famous? It doesn't need to be. It's fine the way it is. You can play a less successful sport. You can be a fan of a less successful genre of music. You can enjoy something that isn't massive. Massively multiplayer does not mean every player in the world has to play it. It's totally okay to... It's not dead. The genre isn't dead. It doesn't need to come back to life. It's doing fine. It's found the equilibrium that it sits in with the players that it has. Everyone seems so... You know what? The people that enjoy the MMORPG genre are just playing the games. The people that still really have fun are just logging in and having fun with their friends. Same game for the last 20 years. I mean, yeah, if you want to play, absolutely. The same way that we've had, similar style movies and similar style music. There have been new games, but at what point do you say, hey, actually, what we're trying to provide to the people has been provided with this? There are 8 billion people on the planet. They're not all playing. Yeah, Zach, that's true. They don't need to be. People seem upset that it's been the most famous games for the last couple of years. And I have to ask myself, okay, I get that. But the sign of the successful MMO game is grabbing a player base and holding it. Which means, unlike regular single-player games, you specifically don't release your player base once you've got them. You want them all to stay. So if there's a limited amount of people that play MMORPG games, the game that wants them, wants to keep them in, wants to have them stay. You don't release that player back into the kind of churning cycle of players that go to something else. And so when players play an MMO, they ask, what do they want? And most players want a big game with a lot of people, which is served by a couple of games. And so they join that big game with a lot of people, get served what they want, and then just stay there. MMOs by design do not want to release their players back into the greater kind of player base as a whole. Moving on from a game isn't bad as well, that's true. You can say to yourself, hey, I'm going to go and explore different things. We have a limited amount of time in the world. People that ask, when will a new MMO come out? What do you want a new MMO to do? What do you want the game to do? Do you want it to be different? Why? Because you're bored of what there currently is? Other people may not be. Now, I'm not taking the side of not advancing. Of course, I love the idea of advancing and changing, going to the future. But people seem obsessed with the idea of what do we have that's new. Here's another question. Has it been the same game for the last 20 years? If you believe that the most successful MMORPG, in this case World of Warcraft, has been the same game for the last 22 years, are you saying that World of Warcraft as it is right now in live midnight is the same as it was when it first launched? Because I wouldn't say it is. I would say it's changed quite substantially. I would say, at what point do we need to take into account the idea that a massive update or a big enough patch actually changes the game to a different experience? At what point are we Ship of Theseusing an MMORPG? Is it a different... I'll explain the Ship of Theseus in a second. So, the Ship of Theseus is a thought experiment, a psychological thought experiment. Imagine an old wooden ship captained by a man called Theseus. The ship leaves and goes on adventures, and as the ship returns, it gets, struck by lightning, it gets into storms, it gets into battles, and slowly but surely they have to start replacing bits of that ship. They replace the hull, they replace the sails, they replace every board and every plank. Even some of the crew members get replaced eventually. Now, they never replace all of it in one go. It's only ever a little thing here, a little thing there. At what point did that ship stop being the Ship of Theseus and start being something else? Or is it still the Ship of Theseus? Because small changes are okay. Exactly, define the same. Because if we define the same, and if we go small enough onto the minute scale of like the atomic scale, it was a different ship the moment it hit the water. It was a different ship the moment someone stepped foot on it. It was a completely different ship the moment the wind caught the sails and they snagged on a chain. That's a change. World of Warcraft is a Ship of Theseus MMORPG. It is not the same as it was when it started, but we can only see that when we look at when it started. There is no individual moment that it became what it is. There were thousands of small moments that added together. That's how it works. So when people say it's been the same game for the last 20 years, it's had the same name for the last 20 years. But I definitely wouldn't say it's been the same game. That's why people have classic and retail. You don't want to start a 20-year-old game even if it has a fresh coat of paint. Shep, would you watch a 20-year-old film? Would you listen to a 20-year-old album? Would you read a 20-year-old book? Do you believe that engaging with and exploring art is limited by how old it is? Do you want to be there at the start of something? Is that what you are saying? Because there's nothing wrong with that. The value of being there at the start is very important. So I think when people say they want a new MMORPG, what they actually mean is, or what there is a level of meaning kind of within their words, is they're saying that they like what the MMORPG genre can be, and sometimes they feel that they missed out on being part of that because they weren't there at the start. They weren't there on the ground floor. They weren't the pioneers. And so they would very much like to be that. When people say they want a new MMORPG, sometimes what I hear them saying is, I want to be there at the beginning of the adventure. And that's got value to it. That's absolutely got value to it. How many people play fresh start servers and enjoy the energy that they bring? I love the fresh start servers. Yeah, you can't win the race by starting late. Do you see it as a race? I personally don't. I mean, this specifically is, but I'm not exactly playing super meta, am I? Beginning at the very start of something has a special feel to it. Undeniable. An absolutely undeniable feel. But at what point do you want a new MMO, and at what point do you want a new adventure for you? This is why so many new MMO classic servers start. If they bring out a classic server of a game I like, I'm playing it. Because I want to be there at the start with everyone. I've even made a video called Why People Play Classic MMOs. Fresh start servers are what give people this rush. Some people want the game to be a replacement for what they do with day-to-day life, and they want that replacement to be something they feel involved in, important in. I think, and this is going to sound cringy, but it's very important we understand it. I think we can actually learn a hell of a lot about what people want from MMORPGs by looking at what MMO animes give people. Now, I'm not saying that every MMO anime is well written or well made, but I do think it's interesting that so many people that watch anime MMORPGs or MMO animes, they all ask, could this game exist? Could this be real? And then I ask them what they want from it. Games like Log Horizon, animes like Log Horizon, animes like, what's the really big one? Sword Art Online, that kind of stuff. They always have everyone playing. It's a popular thing. And there is always a community within that game. And there is always a defined bad guy, a defined good guy. There's always an adventure. There's always this idea of you are going through it with friends. There's this idea of you can explore, it's brand new, it's different. I think what MMO animes show is that people want to be part of a community. And they also, and this is something that really strikes me as odd, they think it's more important if more people are part of it. You guys ever seen how in animes that involve MMORPGs, like everyone knows of it, everyone's playing? It's that thing where that's the most important thing. That's the game. Because it validates people as making the right choice. You like playing with others that are figuring out the game and the systems. Yeah. In that case, if you like playing with other people who are figuring out the games and the systems, why don't you get people together, or friends, or a group, and go and play an unknown MMO that you don't know, and just agree to not look anything up? That could work. But people won't do that. People won't do that because they don't actually want to experience a brand new game. They want to experience the brand new game that everyone else will experience, that is popular, that is seen, that has social clout and social credit and social validation, which is why people want a brand new MMORPG that becomes the big thing that they can experience together. You need friends for that. You can start playing Lord of the Rings Online right now and find someone in the starting town and chat to them. You can go and start playing Rift right now. You can play Runes of Magic right now. You could probably find a couple of people to start playing with you. You could do that, but people don't because they want to play the big popular game. They rely on popularity. You could grab somebody else and say, hey, I missed the fact that, the exploration phase is fun. Maybe we can go and explore this early game together. You can go and play EverQuest. Whenever people tell me they want a brand new MMORPG, what I often hear is they would like to go on an adventure with someone where they're at the exploration phase. And that's fair. Going on the adventure at the exploration phase is great. But there are games you can do that with right now. You just won't, because it also needs the exploration phase to be, fun. What are the main strengths of Albion Online? I like the fact that you can recover so quickly after being killed in PvP. I like the fact that there is a varied amount of PvP and PvE. I like the fact that it is MOBA-style combat with RuneScape-style crafting and gathering combined with an MMORPG-style open world. It facilitates and builds into the PvP elements. It very much knows what it is, and I think that's valuable when designing a game. You don't design a game for everyone. It doesn't work. But when you know what you are and what you can give, I'm on the European server. Lupac, how am I enjoying it so far? You know what? It's not bad. I am at that. There you go. That's the whole thing. That is my full review. Albion Online. It's not bad. I like the graphics. I like the chunky style of it. I like the fact that I can wear my cool paladin armor, which is just a cosmetic override, by the way. Hey, Josh, I want to congratulate you on quitting WoW. Well, you'll be taking that back in a few days' time, I'm sure. Any new content coming to YouTube sometime soon? That's a good question. So, we were talking about this yesterday. I am finding it very difficult to put out YouTube videos at the speed that people want them put out, and Twitch stream the amount of times and the amount of hours that people want me to Twitch stream. I could split my focus half and half and do half focus on YouTube videos, half focus on Twitch streaming. But if I did that, I don't think I would be able to put out enough YouTube videos or Twitch stream enough. I think if I tried to do half and half, I would fail at both instead of succeeding at one. And so one of the reasons that I'm Twitch streaming so much right now is to gather data. I want to know what a full-time Twitch stream schedule looks like. I want to know if it's even reasonable or possible to do full-time Twitch streaming and also do YouTube videos. The only way that I could Twitch stream and put out YouTube videos would be effectively making videos of the streams, which I don't really want to do because they don't do too well on YouTube, and I don't think they have the value of the curated videos that I normally make. So what I'm doing right now is I'm kind of gathering data and seeing what it's like to do just full Twitch streams. If this ends up being super successful, then yeah, sure, it'll carry on. If this ends up not being as successful as YouTube was, then I will return to YouTube. But it's important that I know. Because if I don't know, I'm always going to be asking, what if? Does this dungeon have jiggle physics? Yeah, but only for the rocks. There's no hot goth baddies in this one, which is a shame. So I think what I would kind of explain right now is this is a lot of gathering data. Because so many people have come into the Twitch stream and asked where the YouTube videos are. But very few people ever used to comment on the YouTube videos, hey, where are the Twitch streams? Which means that Twitch is very successful when you are there. And YouTube is very successful after you've done it. And I think personally, I was getting a bit burnt out of just doing YouTube videos because it got quite formulaic for me personally. I knew that I would sit there, I'd play a video game, I'd analyze the UI, I'd analyze the mechanics, analyze this, analyze that. I knew I could do it, I'd make it work, it would be successful. And that was fine, but it was losing the personal touch. It was losing the connection with the audience that I value and that I wanted. Doesn't YouTube keep earning money as new people watch the videos? It does, Pip, but it very much falls off a cliff unless you keep updating it. Like, if you don't put out a YouTube video once every 1 to 2 months, the YouTube revenue drops by about 80%. I know that sounds like a high number, but it really is that much. It's insane. So while YouTube is, of course, still earning ad revenue and still earning sponsorship stuff, it drops hugely. And if Twitch is able to mitigate that and to make up for that, then fine, great. YouTube's algorithm discourages you from taking too much time off. And Twitch's algorithm discourages you from not streaming on a consistent schedule. And unfortunately, my method of production for videos doesn't really suit a consistent schedule. The other problem is that the games that I review are long games, and other people often don't review them because they're long, which is why people like my videos, because they're reviewing games people aren't reviewing. Not many people want to play a 100 or 150 hour RPG. I mean, there are YouTubers that do it, but can you name any active, working, uploading YouTubers who actively review 100 to 150 hour long games and complete them and analyze the mechanics within them? Because that's a relative rarity within the gaming space. You've got a couple of people like you've got the Death of a Game series, which is lovely. You've got a lot of Kadikarus's videos that do a huge amount of effort into do stuff. It's a very extreme niche, without a doubt. You've got Zanny. Oh, Zanny's fantastic. You've also got Ross Scott with the whole Game Dungeon series. Never Knows Best as well. Yeah, that's true. Mandalore Gaming. Yes, these channels are doing really well. But you'll notice that these channels are also not full-time Twitch streaming. These channels are not putting 6 to 8 hours a day, 5 days a week into doing Twitch streams. If they were, they probably wouldn't be putting content out at the rate they're putting content out. Some of them do Twitch, but not a lot. YouTube is very lucrative and very successful if you can keep doing it constantly. But what it does mean is that you're spending a huge amount of time not interacting with the gaming community because you're either playing the game, writing the script, analyzing the game. And sometimes I feel that I was losing touch with the people that I was making the videos for, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to feel like I'm just becoming an out-of-touch gaming content creator who, gets invited to the events and gets to play the games and then makes a video where the voice actors help him out and stuff, which is great. I love being able to do that, but I also want to be able to talk to the people directly who actually watch the videos and get reminded why you guys watch the videos, because they're fun. Rick Plan Glazer. Oh, thank you. When you cross the bridge, taste the grass on the other side, will you come to the dark side? When will I review Roblox? I won't. I won't review Roblox on YouTube because it will change my audience demographic substantially and my income will go down hugely. It would also mean that I get lumped in with Roblox creators which have a ridiculously low CPM. What are my PC specs? Good. Overclockers UK built me a PC. They built me a very good PC. The problem as well is that so much YouTube content now is just AI-generated slop. And what annoys me as a creative is how remarkably successful that is. I watched a video about MMORPGs from a channel that I didn't realize until I was like 5 minutes into the video was just producing AI slop. And I think what irritated me the most was that you take away the AI aspect and it's actually a pretty good video. I could ask AI to simply write me a 20 to 25 minute script about the MMORPG genre. I could ask for that every day. And I could record the audio for that. I could get that edited on cheap, you know, by a cheap editor. And I could put out a 25 to 30 minute video every damn day. And that would suck. That would suck because that would push the channel so much. I don't want to do that. I want to produce content that I think has value. And I think what I was doing when I started, you know, this whole Twitch streaming full-time thing, this started because I wanted to just play Warcraft without a camera, casually, off-stream, for a bit. That's what I wanted to do. About 2 months ago, I downloaded Warcraft, played it off-stream for a bit, just to understand what it was like, and then played it on-stream with no camera, super casual chat, really relaxed vibes. And people liked the stream. So I just kept going, and I kept going, and I kept going. But the YouTube videos have suffered because of that. I mean, the Was It Good Cyberpunk video came out 6 months ago. I could have put out 2 to 3 full videos in that time, but I wouldn't have been able to Twitch stream at all. And I think the human connection is an element that I value a lot. The human connection is huge. However, YouTube has been very successful for a very long time now. And so I'm not willing to throw that away. But I do have to balance. People say just find the right balance and the right time and do an amount of YouTube and do an amount of Twitch. And that doesn't always work because what you then end up doing is not enough of either of them. You need to find that balance where you can do enough of both. And I think at some point that I mean, you guys will understand this. Imagine you're working on 2 projects at work. And your boss says, hey, I need you to do both these projects equally. And you end up saying to them, look, I can either succeed at one project or I can fail at both. What would you like? Yeah, you get half-assed. Never half-ass something, whole-ass one thing. But another interesting question is, if I keep making YouTube videos, I can only say what I know. If I Twitch stream, I can learn what you know. And I have gained so much from these streams. I have learned a hell of a lot. I've changed some of my opinions. People have sent me messages where they've explained concepts to me in a lovely way. And that's been extremely beneficial to me. Because otherwise, you end up... I mean, have you guys ever noticed that sometimes YouTubers and Twitch streamers, when they don't engage with something beyond their small bubble, they end up just repeating the same things and they become massively out of touch. I don't want to become massively out of touch from things that I'm working on. Don't ever want to have that, you know, super privileged content creator bullshit going on. Am I saying YouTube comments aren't filled with a wealth of knowledge? You can feel yourself get dumber the more you read YouTube comments. It's a physical feeling. What are the red flags that a public figure is becoming out of touch? When a multi-millionaire or a multi-billionaire will sit there in their nice massive mansion and tell you to give what you can. We're all in the same boat, guys. Yeah, maybe, but like, you're on the deck sunbathing with a margarita and other people are down below rowing. So, kind of, but we're not in the same part of the boat, are we? Exactly. When the celebrities, I think, are becoming out of touch. Well, I mean, what do you guys think with that? Personally, I think celebrities are slightly out of touch when they start treating the world as if it hasn't changed in the last 20 years. Just go and buy a Freddo for 15p. Still there. What to you is a sign of somebody being out of touch? Is it when they aren't skibbidying the Riz correctly? You mean 50p? No, I mean 15p. We're talking 90s costs. When they don't comprehend the path they took to success is now closed. That is a beautiful line. Pulling the ladder up after you is absolutely a thing that successful people do. It is possible to take the exact same steps and perform the exact same actions that somebody else did to find success, and yet you will not find success because the world will not react the same way to you that it reacted to them. And so when people say you just need to do this, no, you don't. You need to do that and have the world react to it in the correct way. We've been raided by Ecto, who insists that beavers are fish. Right, everyone stop doing everything. Stop. Let's sort this out. Okay, first of all, welcome in, Raiders. Raiders from Ecto's channel. Ecto, what were you playing? What were you doing? It doesn't matter, I don't care. If you have never seen this channel before, raise your hand. If you are from the raid and you have never watched my content before, make yourself known. Say, right now, put your hand up. If you have raided in and you do not know who I am, raise your hand. Okay. Fuck is wrong with you? I've got millions of views on YouTube. I've been Twitch streaming for months. How do you know who I think I am? You come in here with the raid and you don't even do the research. You've not even done your own research to work out who I am. We were playing Poker Night, the inventory. I love World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft's great. I can't... Okay, Ecto, some of you guys don't know who I am, and that's honestly, my ego is hurting for that. My ego is hurting. Discount Ben Starr, I'll take it. It's a downgrade from Discount Henry Cavill, but I suppose we can go with that. Welcome in, Raiders. This is Albion Online, one of the games ever. You should absolutely consider playing Albion Online, and you should tell Albion Online that I sent you. That'll be important. Imagine Wagon says, I love you, JoshStrifeHayes. No, you don't. You love the idea of me. But welcome in, Raiders. If you need background noise to fill the empty silence in your day and prevent the thoughts from getting into your head, I'm here for you. Because I know that none of you want to be left alone with your thoughts. And so, I will make sure that you don't need to be. Some of you might be starting to think. You might be starting to self-reflect. Don't do that. That's terrible. Come to this stream instead. I will validate you. If you've just raided in, what do you want to be validated for? Let's start with some positive energy. Come on. Tell me something good you've done. Tell me I will be the validation daddy, which we learned earlier is shortened to the Validaddy. Wow, how are you able to be that condescending to users, telling them they're not able to be loving you? That's hilarious. How am I able to be that condescending? Reg, condescending? That is a really big word. Well done. I'm impressed you were able to use that in a sentence in the correct way. Tomorrow we'll do colors. But no, welcome in, Raiders. Hopefully you're all having a good day. Some of you probably worse now that I've been a bit of an arsehole to you. But that is the energy that we bring. I will validate you. Right, come on, who needs to be validated? Do it. Cops like, yes, colors. Dark Josh, hang on, Dark Josh is here. It's time to put on the shades. All right, guys. I'm going to be Dark Josh from now on. If you aren't aware of who Dark Josh is, I'm the bad boy of British MMORPG reviews that are generally over 30 minutes long. It's a hotly contested category. Right, can you validate my cheeseburger? I can, it's a good cheeseburger. You know what? Validate me. Rue, I will validate you. Rue, it's a good name.